We just spoke with a concerned citizen organizing with other concerned citizens about the cutting down of Sullivan's Island Maritime Forest. With us now is Sullivan's Island Mayor Pat O'Neill, who too is not pleased with the vote to allow private citizens to cut down public vegetation. And sir, I want to thank you for joining us. I know that you were also opposed to the vote that essentially came down a month ago, allowing private citizens to cut portions of the maritime forest down. So now that that vote is passed, where do people go from here?
Well, as you said, the vote happened about a month ago. The next steps are for the town to draw up a more specific plan for what type of cutting would take place so that that plan can be presented to various regulatory agencies as well as to the Low Country Land Trust, with whom we have the deed restrictions to protect that land from development. And I think that's really critical to remember. This is land that the town owns. And 29 years ago, an earlier town council had the foresight to protect it from any future development by putting in place a deed restrictions with the Low Country Land Trust. And over that time, the land has grown even more because it's accreting rather than eroding. So I think it's really fortunate that this earlier council did that. We might be looking at 2 rows of residential or commercial buildings there right now.
Goodness. Okay, so that's information that did not know previously, but I also want to let our viewers know that we did reach out to the other side. We contacted the following town council members: Tim Reese, Kay Smith, Chauncey Clark, and Greg Hammond, who Greg was the only town councilman to provide a statement. And I just want to paraphrase what he told us. He basically said that the results of the most recent town survey conducted on management of the accreted land is 10 years old, and that it's the same then as it was pre-settlement. 58% supported more trimming than was allowed. 20% supported the current policy, 22% wanted the land untouched. Would you say that that is an accurate view? Is that an accurate view of what residents on Sullivan's Island want?
I think what he might be referring to is a paper and pencil survey that was handed out, distributed to people who requested it, as he said, probably about 10 years ago. And it was not a scientific poll by any means. So I'm not sure what to make of whatever numbers we got out of that at the time.
Okay, and I also want you to know that we also reached out to a non-beachfront resident who was for the trimming. She agreed to go on with us, but backed out of the interview at the last minute. So she pointed to her editorial, which can be read online at the Post and Courier. But it just sounds like you do have a handful of people who are for, but some very passionate people who are against. And can you tell us why you particularly took the stance opposing the trimming of the maritime forest?
Certainly, and again, I don't have a scientific polling survey at my fingertips either, but I can certainly attest that the majority of the people we have heard from, the vast majority of the people we've heard from before, during the limited comments period we had, and subsequent to that decision, the vast majority have said that they're in opposition to it. The reasons I was opposed to it are numerous and go back to the original purpose 29 years ago for protecting that land, which was to keep it from development and to allow it to develop in its current natural state. And that means with different kinds of vegetation that grow up naturally in land as it's maturing. It's a fascinating experiment in what Mother Nature does if you leave her to her own devices. We go from sea oats on the by the beach itself, front beach. As you work your way back, you get into more bushes such as myrtles, wax myrtles, and then into different kinds of vegetation, and ultimately to a wide variety of trees in a developing maritime forest, which is an incredibly rich and diverse habitat, particularly to be located right across the harbor from Charleston, South Carolina.
And if I can just ask you, our last question here, the fear is that it harbors certain pests, coyotes, mosquitoes. Are these all real fears? Are these all real threats to the residents of Sullivan's Island?
We've got mosquitoes and rats and coyotes all over the island. We've got coyotes in nearly every state of the union. So it's certainly not specific to the accreted land. What that land does harbor is a large variety of species of migratory birds who stop there. It's an important stopover place for birds during migration, where they can get a good night's sleep and some food.
Well, it sounds like the fight continues even post-vote. So we're going to check in again, see how things are moving along with that. I want to thank you so much, Mayor, for joining us today.
Thank you.
We're back after this.